y'all, how's it going today? I am excited to present what I have for you, actually, because I have a lot of different interests. I have a lot of different things floating around in my mind, and sometimes it's kind of hard to nail down exactly what I want to focus on and share with you all. And I feel called today to share some things that I already have looked into in the past, some things that I have already incorporated into my life now, and I've mentioned bits and pieces of my philosophy living this way, but I thought I just want to dedicate at least one episode to talking about living in balance, and specifically how to pace ourselves with our efforts in getting back in balance after getting out of a chaotic experience or relationship, right? So that's what I want to talk about, because it's when you have come out of toxicity, a toxic situation, it's like, yeah, you have to process the feelings, you have to do a lot of work with your healing, and that's very critical and important in the early stages. But once you feel more peace from doing that work, then you're ready for a shift. You're ready to embrace new opportunities and all the possibilities that life has to offer you, and you're ready to just go at it. And it's hard to want to pace yourself. And so the thing is, when you have been in this toxic situation in your past for any length of time, it's like you sort of you get accustomed to, you get accommodated with living out of balance as being normal, as that being a normal thing. And so for me, what I have found is that I was munching on some dried fruit and nuts earlier, and I just feel it in my teeth, which is not a really great feeling when you're filming a video. But hopefully I don't have to refilm this opening part here. But anyway, yes, pacing ourselves is really important, and that's what I want to talk about, because there's this term, this phrase called yoga off the mat. And y'all know that I've recently started yoga in the last year. I've been doing it about a year now, a little, maybe more like 10 months, and I really enjoy it. And I've learned, especially in the last couple of months, 8 or 10 weeks or so specifically, how you can push yourself even with yoga, and how anytime we push ourselves and we're not pacing ourselves, there's danger. And it creates, it's like we're inadvertently creating chaos in that manner by not pacing ourselves, and that's definitely not what we want to do. So let me get to my notes here. So they have this phrase called yoga off the mat, which basically means taking the concepts you learn in yoga out into your life. And it's like a philosophy, it's like a way of living. And so I like it, because you can, there's so much to learn with yoga, that there's so many different things you can extract from your yoga practice and apply in your life. So I really think that it comes down to giving attention to the right things. That's a big part of it, at least, because like even in yoga, you can, I think I mentioned this briefly in a past video, okay? For example, you can be starting out learning your different poses, and you can be holding a pose and breathing and just putting a lot of effort into it and be struggling. And then I've had this one instructor that she's really great, and she'll just come around and just kind of, help you and make adjustments with your pose, and suddenly it's like instant relief, and you're able to just that, minor repositioning can totally take the stress off. And it's incredible. And so and it really means once you learn those adjustments that she teaches you, it's like, okay, these are the areas that I want to always focus on, making sure that they're in the right place. So again, to extract the lesson there, taking it, into what they call yoga off the mat, it would be giving attention to the right things. And so that's definitely a big part of living in balance, because see, when you go through narcissistic abuse, our attention is really what gets hijacked and exploited, and that's what causes us to get out of balance, right? And we get out of balance physically, mentally, emotionally, even spiritually. Okay, and so the concept of yoga off the mat is to change your mind, and by doing that, in all areas, you're changing your life, and you're doing it with intention. And so it really is a worthwhile endeavor. I've been researching this whole concept of archetypes, like what I learned about in the book that we just recently went through, and it's really fascinating. And I have a lot of thoughts on it, and I thought about doing a presentation on that already, but I want to wait until I have a little bit more of a grasp, more understanding before I present that to you all. But that's kind of like an area that we can do a deep dive, and which I always love, looking into different scriptures and ancient texts, and even like the missing books of the Bible. I want to look into that. There's just so many different things we can look into to do some deep dives, and archetypes, and Carl Jung, his spin on that, and his, I don't know if he's technically I don't think he's technically the father of archetypal psychology. I need to look into that. There's just so much to learn, and again, I don't want to go too far into that right yet until I learn a little bit more. But I've got some books I've showed you guys, so I'm looking forward to exploring that. So here's the thing, just like something like that, for example, if you just really enjoy research and learning, you can easily get out of balance again just going down rabbit holes, what they call rabbit holes. And so what we have to do is regulate ourselves, right? We have to intentionally and mindfully pause and clear our mind on the regular. You know what I'm saying? Not empty our mind, unless you're into meditation and things like that, right? I'm really just more into yoga. And so, but as far as clearing our mind, what I mean is just, noticing when you have found yourself in chaos again, whether you created it or whether someone else is trying to create it and get you entangled. Either way, you want to notice that, and that's what I mean when I say clear your mind, and just disentangle from the chaos that you may find yourself in, just moment to moment, doing it on the regular, making it part of your daily practice. And so to me, the first thing to repair and to keep in check daily is what they call the gatekeeper role that we've already talked about, that part of your psyche, to stay in balance, because again, it's kind of like that parent aspect of your own psyche, that keeps you in check, that keeps you in balance. That's kind of the whole role, and it keeps you protected, right? Ideally, all the different parts would come together and harmonize in a way within our mind to keep us in balance. And that's really a motivating factor for me as to why I want to explore more psychology, such as regarding archetypes and things like that. But it's really important that we stay resolute in this effort, first and foremost, every day, that we set our intention every day to approach everything we engage with and in our daily life with balance and with clarity and peace, right? Not chaos, not confusion. So, okay, I'm going to give you an example. First of all, I literally can't read my writing here in my notebook, which is kind of funny. Sometimes, it's like my thoughts come to me faster than I can write them down. So it's like, fighting off, it looks like germs. Oh yeah, that is what that means. Okay, yeah, so I feel like I really got out of balance when I mentioned, you know, I got sick over Christmas, and it lasted a long, long time, and I would start to get a little bit better, and then I would get physical again. I would go walking and jogging, go to the gym, I would go to yoga, and it would get worse again. So this was something I really struggled with, and it totally threw me out of balance with how far I had gotten, all the gains I had made, and the place I had gotten to, all my efforts from last summer and last fall. It just kind of, you know, it didn't totally mess it up, but it did certainly get me out of balance. And so here's another thing that I realized I was doing, that it was really my ego at work, and I didn't realize it. So in yoga, a big part of that is flexibility, and you know, which is easy when you're a kid, but when you're older, it's, you know, sometimes it takes a little bit more work, especially if you haven't kept it up over the years. And so I'm totally motivated now to regain that as much as I can and to keep it up. But here's the thing, I had this erroneous idea that you know, as I was stretching and gaining flexibility, I thought, well, what do you do to increase your flexibility even more? Well, you just stretch even more. And I had learned the practice of essentially mind over matter through yoga. It's really true, but you have to be careful with it. And this was the part I didn't understand, that deep breathing that you can learn, it actually can help you release tension that you're holding in your body when you're trying to relax into a position or a stretch even deeper, even further. A lot of times it's here. What's holding you back from a deeper stretch or more flexibility is actually here. And that was incredible, not just to learn about, but to experience. And I was so excited. So I was doing that. I was just pushing myself to the max. Well, I started, you know, and they always tell you, like, look out for pain. You know, don't push yourself if you start feeling pain. Well, I wasn't feeling any pain, but I started feeling some impacts on my nerves. It's like I would feel tingling in my feet, or they would get feel like they were stinging or burning. And then it got worse, where I would start feeling these cold spots just suddenly develop, you know, like in my hips. And I thought, you know, like I had knocked over a drink or something on myself, and I would check because it felt wet and cold and there was nothing there. And I realized, you know, oh my God. So I started looking into it, and you have to be careful. Even though you may discover you can do something, it doesn't mean you should. It's like a lot of times we want to reach beyond you know, what's immediately at our grasp. You know, we set our aspirations so far out there, and that's a great thing. It's a good thing, but still, yeah, that's where you have to really acknowledge, you know, that you have to pace yourself, and you need to consider balance and be realistic, you know, with where you are. So that was my issue, and I realized, you know, okay, it's not just pain you have to look out for with flexibility, but, you know, the impact on your nerves. So now I've kind of backed off a little bit of my regular yoga practice, and I'm educating myself on you know, my nerves and how to make sure that I'm keeping them protected through the practice. So that's just an example, because, you know, the ego tries to know it all. The ego likes to feel like it does know it all. The ego can push us sometimes, and that's the kind of thing right there that can definitely throw us right back out of balance again. And, you know, it's such a precious and wonderful thing to gain your peace again after coming out of living way out of balance and living in chaos for so long, that we want to really take this serious. We want to pace ourselves, and we want to be able in the moment to recognize how the ego may be kind of playing the narcissist role in our own life and sabotaging what's actually good for us. And once we can catch that, we need to release it, you know. before we actually do damage to ourselves in some way. So, we need to learn to respect the signs that our bodies give us, because I feel like that comes from a deeper knowing. And again, that's where we can easily dive into, more content about the unconscious and, the collective unconscious and the connection to, the divine, if you have that as part of your belief system and all that. And we'll do that a little bit here and there. But, we really don't often, just to keep it kind of, a light conversation today, we don't often give credit, I feel like, to our senses. If we can't make sense of it, if we can't immediately apply logic, sometimes I think we struggle to give our feelings, like our senses, our gut check, our intuition, we struggle to give it credibility if we don't have the logic like immediately available, right? So the point is, we want to understand that it is a higher wisdom, and we need to learn to truly trust ourselves again and to live in harmony with all of our senses, because it's going to play a big role in keeping us in balance. Okay, so it does mean that we need to exercise patience and caution instead of pushing ourselves in all of our endeavors. And we also need to learn to recognize white noise out there in the world and learn how to, to step out of that and to shield ourselves from that. That's a big part of it too. Everything we can do to refine that gatekeeper role. Okay, and I love that Bible verse. It says to be still and know. It's just kind of simple and yet so true. And just to take the first two words, be still. We need to do that sometimes from time to time. And that's kind of what I mean when I say pause throughout the day and intentionally clear our mind. Is kind of what I mean by that, how I see that verse, to be still. And of course, that's going to put us back in balance. And it requires patience. It requires learning to really listen to ourselves, to our gut, to our intuition, with intention throughout the day. So, this existence that we're in requires the ability to navigate through chaos, because there's so much competing for our attention, on the regular. And the trick is to not attach to it. You know what I'm saying? To have that armor on throughout the day, understand it is a chaotic world out there, and to be intentional about our engagement with, the bits and pieces that are going to be beneficial and good. Just always looking through that lens, because there's a lot of bad out there too. And we just want to make sure that, we see it, but we don't attach to it in any way. And we don't allow it to create, chaos. Or try to come at us with confusion and get us entangled, with some kind of white noise, things like that. So we want to stay flexible, but we also want to be attuned to all of our senses. So I hope that this has been just an encouraging pep talk for you today, and I hope that that you are inspired to look into some things that may have piqued your interest. And I just thank you all for coming along this path with me. I've got this really cool book. I think I showed you guys a picture of all the new books I bought, but this is like the coolest little book. And I've already flipped through it, and it's already mentioned several things that that I have been interested in totally different topics. And so I love how, there's like these little pieces of the puzzle that come together unexpectedly. When you do feel called to a certain thing, like a book, and it's like, wow, there's another piece and there is a connection. And so I think I want to use this as inspiration here and there to actually look into different superstitions around the world throughout history and see if there's any kind of, lessons that we can extract there, because I feel like superstitions that stay alive through the years do so for a reason. I think that there's some kind of importance there, even though we may not, consciously understand. I kind of relate superstitions to the archetypal imagery that's discussed, in these old myths and fairy tales and things like that. So I'm looking forward to being inspired by this book so that we can just take take a look online, see what we can find, and just see what kind of lessons we can extract from superstitions. So if you have any other ideas, I'd love to hear them, and I just thank you again. I hope you have an amazing day, a beautiful day, and I will see you again very soon.
Oh.